How are we going to start this?
We'll start it. We'll start it saying this is the inaugural podcast of whatever we're going to call it. Men on Track.
Star Trek review.
Men on Track.
Men on Track.
Men on Track.
Sounds pretty good.
I like that.
This is Keith, Jim, and Mark, and Audio Arthur. We're going to discuss some classic Star Trek episodes and how even almost 50 years later, it's still a groundbreaking series and still is very impactful to today.
60 years.
Oh, 60 years later. I'm younger than you. I don't remember. I watched those reruns.
That's 55 years, I think it is.
So you should have left it alone.
Well,
You saw first run, didn't you? So, today on the cast, we are going to talk about a particular episode. It's Balance of Terror. Season 1, episode 15, ran originally in 1966. Still has a lot of relevant information to today, and we will discuss why it's one of the better episodes that they had in the original series and what they were tackling even back in the 60s that's still relevant today. So this is Keith, and I'm going to try to keep Mark and Jim from clobbering each other, and we'll see what everybody has to say about it.
Won't be any clobbering. This is Mark. I don't care about how relevant it is today. It's just a darn good show.
When we were first talking about doing this, I was trying to figure out which episode, and when I mentioned Balance of Terror, I think everybody said top 3, top 5 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Definitely top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, and as far as actual merit, probably close to number one.
Mm-hmm.
There's episodes I like better, but that's purely just enjoyment factor. If you're talking about quality and filmmaking and what have you,
I think it's my number one. I think Balance of Terror, by far, is the number one episode for me in Trek because of what it does for the character, the ship, and the universe that they're existing in. So,
I remember watching it. I don't know how many times I've seen it now, but when I watched it to prepare for this, I was amazed that there's not like 1 second in that script that isn't right. Every scene, every shot, every discussion.
No plot holes.
No plot holes.
Right.
It's just straight out good.
And each character, there's a scene where they're sitting around like a briefing table, and Styles goes to explain something, and Kirk goes, "I didn't ask for an explanation." That just establishes that there's so much of Kirk that's established as Kirk the captain in this episode.
Yes.
But there's also room in there for other people because there's at that same briefing table when I think it was Sulu was there. I'm not sure, but they said something about a comet was coming up.
Yeah.
And Kirk is there, and he goes to push like a star book chart at Spock, and Spock just puts it down and just gives off the information about the comet, and they cut to Scotty, and you see Scotty like with this prideful look, like that's Spock,
Yeah.
just that exchange, and it was probably like 5-6 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's like you got Spock's depth of knowledge, you got Scotty's acknowledgement that he is Spock, and it was done so well, and you kind of take it for granted, but you don't see that kind of storytelling, and because there was no exposition. Like nobody
Right.
said, Scotty didn't say, Mr. Spock is he's brilliant and he's smart. He did it with a smile.
It wasn't needed to be voiced. It's like Ghostbusters when they're turning on the proton packs for the first time and they're in the elevator.
Oh yeah.
And nothing's being said, but you see the guys scooting away, Egon and Ray, scooting away.
Yeah.
Because it's a nuclear accelerator that's been turned on. They didn't need to tell you that.
Right.
You picked it up because of the way they were responding to what was being done.
It's intelligent. They don't have to stop the show and tell you what's happening.
I don't need exposition. I don't need all that exposition.
Right.
The show's just done such a good way that you can just see it in the character, and it informs you without them rattling off all this stupid stuff, and it doesn't mean anything. But let's start at the beginning because you picked the spot. Somewhere in the first, I guess the first
10 minutes or so.
10 minutes, right? So it starts out. They get a distress call
from the outpost.
They were going to check the outpost, and then they found out that the first 2 outposts
have
already been destroyed. I had notes, and I
wasn't in this episode. Maybe I'm confusing it. Weren't they? Didn't start off, and he was saying we just did a real long mission or something.
That was shore leave when everybody was exhausted, and in this one, like Mark said, they've been assigned to check this is a ship being sent to the border, to the neutral zone border, to check the outpost, and they find that the outposts are gone.
2 outposts
are gone.
Yeah, for some reason I thought the episode started with they were going to go in, and then they got priority to go check the outpost, and he's like, "Isn't there somebody else that can do it?" And they're like, "You're the only ship in the quadrant." So then they head out.
I don't
doesn't matter.
think so. I don't think so in this one. There are a lot of scenarios.
They never talk about Outpost 1 though.
They don't.
No.
2 and 3 are gone.
2 and 3 are gone.
4 and they get a distress signal from 4.
4 is getting beat down.
And 4 and you see 4 go down.
Yeah. So what happens when they get there? They're on their way actually because they put up a map and show where they are in reference to where the outposts are.
Right.
So they're on their way to Outpost 4. They get in contact, and Outpost 4 is telling what's going on, and he sees the ship. And Kirk says, put what they see on screen.
Right.
So they're able to watch what Outpost 4 is seeing. And then the ship appears out of nowhere, and kabooey, Outpost 4.
There's two great things that happen before they get there. First thing is Kirk gets on the PA for the whole ship.
Right.
And basically says, letting you know that if it comes down to it, I'm gonna let the ship get destroyed and everybody's gonna die. That's my orders. Like
we're expendable if it comes down.
to it. And anyone else, you would go like, well, that's terrible for morale. But it was just Kirk getting on there and going, look, what you need to know, I'm gonna let you know this. Like, we're expendable. If we we're not gonna violate the treaty. We're not gonna start a war, and that becomes a big point. The other thing is when they're going there, and turns over the screen, Kirk turns to her and he goes, does he say
drop a buoy?
No, he says warn that ship, challenge that ship, or warn that ship off.
Right.
Like he's like, he didn't even think about it. He's like immediately like, warn that ship off, challenge that ship.
Right.
And of course the Romulans don't respond.
I think they also drop a informational buoy.
They do. When he decides to pursue the Romulan, knowing that they may not make it, knowing that they may cross the neutral zone.
This is what happened to us.
Right. Drop a buoy. This is what happened. This is what we found.
We might not be able to tell you ourselves.
Right.
But it's like he's checking. It's like you're checking off a list of everything that a captain should be doing.
He's checking the boxes.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, like we were saying, it's so well written.
It is.
That when you watch it, you get so much off of each character without all the exposition, and it gives you their job. How can I put it? Has weight to it. There's gravity behind.
Mm-hmm. It's serious.
It's serious.
It's not a lot of series, even though they're portraying people who are basically military people. They never seem to be military people. They don't. There's not the bearing and the discipline and the gravity of it.
Wasn't it in the very beginning? Now I'm trying to remember. So McCoy was doing Kirk like a physical fitness test? He's laying on his back, and then
Kirk's getting his physical,
Yeah, yeah.
and he has to go conduct a wedding. That's the beginning of the
Right, the
episode.
beginning of it.
That's how they established.
The beginning of it was not the physical; it was a wedding.
Yeah,
the wedding.
He was standing up, and there were two crew members.
Yeah.
Who were marrying each other.
And
Styles. It's how they established the Styles character to make you care about the character.
No, Styles.
Styles is not the guy getting married.
Tomlinson is getting
Tomlinson.
married. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But it was funny because they did, the classic Star Trek. They lit his eyes up when he was standing up there, and he goes, "Since the early days of wooden ships, it's
Right.
always been one privilege of a captain." And
Yes.
once again, man, it's just another, like, what does a captain do? Marries people. What does a captain do? He warns off other ships so other ships don't get attacked. What does he do? All these things are it's just checked off. Next.
He is the de facto dictator upon the ship. He's the first and last word
He is.
on the ship.
He is.
So he has, like
He-
on the cruise ships, he has the right to marry because he is the law
Right.
upon the ship. Now they don't have Starfleet is not in existence at this point. I don't think in the series.
It is. They're in Starfleet.
Well, the Federation does not exist.
Yeah.
One of the two didn't exist at this point in the series.
I don't think they actually talk about the Federation till late in the first season.
But you have two crew members that are getting married, and that means they're going to be on the ship for an extended period of time or
5-year mission.
So, but that's the start of it.
Yeah, that's.
And then they get the call,
Yep.
and then all that's done
Yep.
because two outposts have been destroyed, and
Yep.
they go in and he institutes. I think did he go? He didn't go red alert. I think it was yellow alert.
No, he called red alert battle stations.
Yeah.
From the beginning, as soon as he discovers that the outposts have been attacked, he's not sure who. I mean, they know they're patrolling the Romulan neutral zone, and more than likely it's the Romulans, but they give you that whole backstory that the Earth-Romulan war was fought over distance and nobody ever saw each other, and they don't know what they look like.
Except Styles knew enough to know that their ships were marked with a bird of prey.
Because his father,
Styles in the
Yeah.
space service.
because his father or grandfather had fought in the war.
Right.
But again, like to your point, there's no committee. They come into the area, Kirk assesses the situation, and he decides, hell or high water, we're taking this guy down. I don't care who he is. He's not getting away with this. We're going to get him. And again, the gravity of it, I'm making the call. He got his senior officers together. He said, this is what I'm thinking. Some said yay, some said nay. He made the call. And that was it. There was no dissension.
Well, no dissension, but there were concern because McCoy,
Of course.
they would always, are you going to cross into the neutral zone? Are we going to?
Are we really going to do this? Right.
A war.
But you know what was great about that? So if you cut to the Romulan ship, and they sent a signal, right? And I remember the guy walks up and he goes, "My commander called for Decius," and he tells him, you sent a signal, you've reduced two grades in pay,
Yep.
get out there. But for me, what the contrast was is that both of those captains were very strong, right?
Right.
But one was barely in control politically.
Right.
Right.
And that was the Romulan. Like this guy.
Different structure.
Yeah, because his Centurion tells him, he goes, "Be careful of this guy." Like,
Right.
He's
if
gunning
you
for
said
you.
that to Kirk, be careful of somebody on his ship,
that guy would be gone.
they'd be beamed out into space.
That guy would be gone. But it's the outline of the political structure between Starfleet and the Romulan Empire,
Which is reflective of the Cold War.
which is absolutely reflective of the Cold War. And that's the writing. And they're not picking and choosing one better than the other like you get in writing today. They're not
Right.
They just
Right.
put them there. This is one.
Yep.
This is the
Yeah.
other. They're not promoting one over the other. You just get to see how it plays out.
Right. And that's what's great about the episode, because they don't try to make you hate the Romulan commander. You actually respect him. You see that he's a capable, you could even say a good man.
But before we get too far forward,
Right.
let's go back to the guy at the outpost when the Romulan blast comes in. We can't skip that.
Well,
I mean, do you see the guy going?
Commander Hansen. It was Hansen, wasn't it?
That's
Commander
it.
Hansen.
That's it.
Enterprise in the middle of an asteroid 10,000 miles deep. They still did this to us.
Well,
It's like
yeah, they
flames behind him. He's just hanging.
he's got radiation burns.
Oh, he's just
and then the plasma shot comes in. He's like, "Whoa!"
But
we can't skip that, man.
But-
That's pivotal to the story.
well, what that does is establishes the power of the weapon,
it
because
establishes the power
they,
of the weapon.
they tell you some very important things there. One, the outpost it's a military outpost. It's made out of the hardest substance they've got,
They get to that later on in the story, but
and it's inside an
breaks up like a
asteroid,
Cheeto.
miles deep.
and it's miles deep inside an asteroid plus shields, and they come in and 2 shots and boom. You know.
The only thing that I know of that is as powerful as that weapon that I remember in the original, and I'm not counting like the Doomsday Machine,
No.
you know, like whatever it shot out. But remember Nomad?
Yes.
Its first attack on the Enterprise. Spock goes, that our shields absorbed the energy of 70 of our photon torpedoes in one shot. Like, first of all, that anything could generate that much energy, and secondly, that those shields could take it. You know,
Well, they could. Spock told him, one more like that and it's over. You know, we won't take another.
Right. But I think that was inflated numbers to give gravity in that episode to what Nomad was doing, because by then you had a history of the shields taking things, and they wanted to show how much greater Nomad was.
And photon torpedoes didn't exist yet in Balance of Terror. They didn't have photon torpedoes yet.
yeah.
They hadn't thought that up yet.
But, well, they probably got the idea when the bomb floated out. But so after
Outpost 4.
the Outpost 4 and the guy writhes in agony
After the heart.
after the blast, and then the ship just vanishes, and they got him on sensor.
Yeah.
And Kirk goes, match his,
Mirror him.
and who was the officer, the one that was constantly checking Kirk?
Styles.
Styles, the helmsman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the helmsman.
You sure that was Styles?
That was Styles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he also had some, you know,
Yes.
he had, I don't know if it's race issues
Styles
or whatever,
fire.
but he had.
Well, that's another great thing about the episode that I was going to touch on when we got there. It was tackling those things even back then.
Right.
We ain't there yet.
I know. Okay.
So Kirk goes,
This is
mirror him, and Styles like, but you're not gonna attack him. You're not gonna rush in here and blast him. And Kirk knows we're gonna follow him, and find out what's going on, because Styles is promoting that this is a Romulan ship. And Kirk goes, nobody's seen a Romulan ship.
right.
Would you even know what a Romulan ship looks like? And Styles offers the information that it has a bird of prey on it. But it's the interaction between Kirk and Styles for the most part, of Styles wanting to second guess the captain, and Kirk wasn't having any of it.
Yeah, and I think he was pushing him, because he was like losing. Styles was like losing his ability to focus, and that's where you see like Kirk doesn't.
Is it being focused or objective?
I think he's hyper focused on
That's what I'm thinking.
that it is a Romulan, and
He's not objective to other
right.
possibilities.
Why are you waiting when it's so obvious to me? And Kirk's like, well, because I'm the captain and you're not. I mean, in so many words. But the parallel course starts at that point.
Yeah.
Like that's really where we get into like Act 2, I think, where it's like,
And they're tracking him, and that's when the battle of wits between the captains really begins.
That's when you get to cut over to the other captain, and
which is Mark Leonard's first Star Trek role. He ends up playing quite a few roles as the series goes on.
Well,
Ambassador Sarek, right?
Right.
he does a great job, but you get the counterplay, and that's where you get the political differences, because one of his subordinates sends a message
Decius.
that allows
that
the
revealed
Enterprise
their position.
right to figure out exactly where they were.
It's also interesting just from the way they handle cloaking devices now versus the initial. This is the introduction of a cloaking device. They created the Romulans for this episode. The cloaking device was not the end-all be-all. It was not foolproof. They were able to track the Romulan, and they were able to reasonably counter him even though he was cloaked.
But see, that's the thing. Like, if you look at the Borg, and I'm not going to pick too much on the new generation because, God forbid you hurt someone's feelings. But, the Romulans were designed in this episode that they weren't unbeatable. Like, they had two out of three things. They had a cloaking device, and they had a massive weapon.
They have firepower, right?
But simple impulse.
Yes.
No war.
That was their Achilles heel.
And it was designed.
They had no ability to get away, really.
Right.
But if you cornered them, that might be very bad for you.
Right.
So, but I like the interplay between the two captains.
Absolutely.
And not that they were communicating, although they were. It was Cold War communication. Mm-hmm. So the Romulan captain is doing his best and to deal with his situation with limited fuel, because that was one of their concerns. Limited speed. So they took out so many posts, and they had to make it back. And he said, no matter what happens, there will be a war.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a great scene where he's talking about. He says to Centurion, he says, I find myself wishing that I'm destroyed before I get home. And it's like, what's great about that is that it says a lot about that character, and then he puts his hand on him and he says, don't worry, I'll do my job. Right. I'll do what we need to do.
I'm too good of a soldier.
But I mean, that's one of the things I think that we miss now in villains, right? Like, they have to be just these.
They have to be these maniacal, evil guys instead of just a good soldier or somebody doing a job.
Yeah. I mean, God forbid that you feel like sorry for the bad guy, or you actually like the bad guy,
or respect him.
Yeah.
Right. It's nowadays that they make the bad guy so detestable that you have to hate him. And here in this particular Star Trek episode, you find yourself not hating but admiring the opposing captain. He's an admirable individual because of his skill, regardless of the politics of his race, or should I say his culture. But he's a respectable individual because he's competent and he's doing his job to the best of his ability, although he doesn't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, and there's another good point in that byplay. I think that conversation with the Centurion is huge because, again, it's a soldier's perspective. This is a man who's been a Romulan commander for a long time, and the Centurion is an older man, but they're friends. They've been serving together a long time, and you get all that between their interaction. He knows, as you touched on, Jim, he knows the success of this mission means the Romulans will be aggressive enough to attack. He knows it's his duty, but he doesn't desire the war. It's a very reasonable and good anti-war statement without being radical or ridiculous as it would probably come across today. Today it'd be virtue signaling or some really off-the-wall statement. It's just the reality of it's not soldiers who start wars. He knows he's doing his job. He's sent out to test this weapon system. It succeeded.
It's very much like the Hunt for Red October, or should I say, the Hunt for Red October is very much like this particular episode of Star Trek.
Yeah,
because it's about a weapon system being put forth for testing, knowing that if it proves to be viable, that it will put that one side in a greater stance for war.
Right.
And the Centurion makes a statement to the captain. He goes, if we're not the stronger, shouldn't we attack?
Shouldn't we attack?
Shouldn't we take over? I mean, we're the Romulan Star Empire, right? We got the ability to break a foot off in you. Then it's our job from his cultural standpoint
perspective
to break a foot off in you.
Right.
I don't hate you. I just got to kill you.
Well, no, you don't. They don't have to kill you. You can surrender.
Oh, that's true.
But then you have the opposite thing. You know the Federation. You know Kirk. That's not going to happen.
Well,
and even
an assumption.
Well,
that the Romulans don't have.
I know, but just the byplay you get in the series, you're looking at both sides of it. It's inevitable because of the cultures and because of the mindset of the two captains. And you also get Kirk doesn't relish the idea that, as you guys were touching on, the difference between he and Styles. Styles wants blood. Right. Styles' family fought that war, and whatever scars or impressions that left with him, he wants blood, especially if it's a Romulan. Right. I want to kill him.
Right.
Yeah, but
Kirk is saying, whoever it is has attacked our outpost, killed our people, and that must be answered. I don't relish what comes after.
Well, Kirk tells Styles that's another man's war. Right. The war you're fixating on is not our war. Right. That was somebody else's war. But when they're sitting there at the briefing, and Spock takes this is the strongest metal we know, and he crumbles it in his hand, showing the ability of the Romulan weapon. Style, they're questioning what they should do, and Style makes the point that these are Romulans. They only understand force, and we have to engage. And then there's sort of a byplay around the table.
Everybody weighs in,
and then Spock chimes in at the final, saying, "If they're offshoot of the Vulcan race, and if they're still culturally like the Vulcans were, aggressive." Styles is right. You're going to have to stop this guy. You can't let them get back home with good news of their weapons ability.
Well, there's another Kirk captain moment in that scene, because Styles is he challenges Spock. He goes, "You know that, Mr. Science Officer. Why don't you say that?" And you think Kirk is about to just shut him down in a way, like, you don't go after Spock like that or something. But the way that he ends up handling it, and then Spock sort of reflects and he says, "I agree. If they are an offshoot of my Vulcan blood or something like that, we have to."
And even in that, because by then you've seen the Romulan, and Styles is looking at Spock, and it's the addressing the prejudices. Styles is very hostile towards Spock at that point, and when Mr. Spock agrees with Styles is kind of looking at him like, really?
Well, Kirk deals with the prejudice on the bridge when they first show that reveal.
Right.
So when they zoom in and they're actually able to see the Romulan on their bridge, and Styles looks at Spock, and then
though they go back, they're shadowing, and Styles is just staring at Spock, and Kirk walks by and he
taps him.
Taps the console, like, "Look, you look down here." Then he spins his chair around and goes off on him. He's like, "You got any prejudice? You leave it off my bridge." Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Well, those things prevent you from making reasonable choices, reasonable decisions. When you have a prejudice that's forefront in your mind, it's a block from you making a rational decision you could have made, because you have something that's hindering your train of thought. It prevents you from making a correct decision because of the negative aspect you already have in your mind. But I love the scene I love all the scenes, but when they're in the briefing room and they're just going through the information, because a decision has to be made. How far are we going to track them? Are we going to go into the neutral zone?
Right.
What are we going to do? Can you let them get away? Is it wise to let them get away?
Even thinking about what you're talking about in the briefing room, a lot is said with expression. There's not a lot of exposition, but you know how people feel, and what's going on, just how they deliver, how the actors deliver, their expressions. And McCoy, of course, is always the heart. He's the one saying, "Do we really gotta?"
Yeah, doesn't he say when everybody walks out of the room and he's still there with Kirk, and he says, "I hope you're right."
Yes.
Or something. But
you're taking a big gamble.
You're taking a big gamble.
Yeah.
I was thinking also in the bridge scenes, especially when Kirk makes the decision, going back to what Jim was talking about, when Kirk makes the decision they're going to go after these guys, and he tells the crew, what happens to us is not material. We have to stop them. We're expendable. In all those bridge scenes when Kirk makes these calls, if you're watching Uhura, she's not really quote unquote, the episode doesn't focus on her in this particular episode, but Uhura's facial expressions and what and what Michelle Nichols delivers in response to what Kirk is saying is because she's over his shoulder for most of those scenes.
Right.
When he says, we're going in, her reaction is just like, oh. When he says, contact Starfleet, she says, you know it'll take him a while to get the message. He's like, I know. Her whole expression is not what she says. And then when he says, drop the buoy, she's like, oh, man.
Well, old Trek is just good like that, because when I think of the Corbomite maneuver. Corbomite. When they think they're going to die, the expressions of everybody on the bridge, nobody says anything, but everybody's looking like, oh crap, we're in it. The way it's written, Kirk tells his crew exactly what they're facing. There is no, I'm not going to tell you my plan, like some movies have perfect, and this is supposedly a grand captain or a grand commander, and their crew and their people don't know nothing.
Right.
Kirk tells everybody on the ship,
Right.
This is not good. We're probably not going to make it out of this.
Because it's good writing. Good writing will let you be a part of the story and the tension. It's not waiting for the reveal.
Well,
I mean, if you sit there for 2
shocked.
hours and you sit there for 2 hours and you wait for the last 5 minutes and then you're like, oh, I understand the story. It was like, no, everything that they were doing, they were sharing, and you could be a part of it. Mm-hmm. That's like what I like about the Romulan commander, was because you could identify with him just as easily as you could with Kirk.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and now you write a villain, and it's like I saw a movie last night, and it was a Guy Ritchie film, and I usually like what he does, but his villains are so like reprehensible. It's like I can't picture myself as
that's why Thanos was so liked.
Exactly.
Because you could put yourself in his position. And although some of the things he did was detestable, you could reason with it. You could go, okay, I get it. Right. I understand.
As harsh as it was, there was a rationale to it.
There was a rationale to it. You could just as easily put yourself on the Romulan ship as you could put yourself on the Enterprise.
Right.
We did a mission. We're trying to get home, and this SOB's trying to prevent us.
You know, another thing they did, which I think, you want to make the assumption that it was done on purpose. I think that's the way I think. I think that it was written purposely this way. And what I mean by that is that, like, the prejudiced person wasn't the enemy, right?
Right.
In more modern scenarios, the Romulans would have been saying those humans and we've got to do this. It was like none of that. The prejudice was on the Enterprise
under Styles.
Right.
And it was written that way because it could have been very easy for you to say, okay, how are you going to deal with that prejudice or that race component of it? You could have just put it right on the commander of the Romulan or one of his officers. Instead, it was like they dealt with it within their own ship.
Right.
And you don't necessarily see writing like that.
I tell you what stuck with me when I was a kid. The main thing I can remember out of this episode was Styles, do you hear me fire?
Yes.
You know why?
Styles, do you hear me fire?
Do you know why?
That stuck with me.
I'll tell
I can't
you
remember
why.
the rest of the episode.
This is very local.
But stuck with
no,
me.
I'm going to tell you, and you're going to remember this. So there used to be a television station in Detroit, WKBD, Channel 50.
Right.
Yeah, when they showed
that's
the
what
old...
showed the Star Trek.
Yeah.
And when they had a commercial, they showed that. So every time you heard the commercial, you heard Styles. Can you hear me? Fire.
And
Styles, can you hear me? Fire.
And I grew up watching the reruns on Channel 50, and Channel 50 didn't show all 3 seasons. They showed a handful of episodes over and over again.
Right.
And Balance of Terror was one of the ones they reran constantly.
Right.
But going back to what you were talking about, dealing with the prejudice and the byplay between the commanders and how you have a commander that you respect, even to the point where you really kind of half want him to get away. You don't want him to die. And if Kirk catches him, somebody's got to die. And that whole byplay, that the fact that you can actually get behind the quote unquote villain and respect him and care about that character, and they're doing all this in a 50-minute episode. and the whole cat and mouse between them. And again, instead of the gotcha moment they try to give you in movies now,
Right.
they're building this tension across the whole episode.
And remember, the commander, the Romulan commander didn't die. He killed himself.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look at Thanos, it's like, wouldn't it have made more sense? And I don't want to get too much into the Marvel stuff, but wouldn't it have made more sense if Thanos had just,
We'll get a Disneygram.
knocked himself off instead of, and that's the thing, because at the end, and we'll get to it, but that interplay between, that's the kind of the big payoff where they finally get to talk to each other.
It's the cultural difference between the Romulan Star Empire and which will be the Federation, which is Starfleet at this point. The Romulans is purely militaristic.
Yes.
And they do their research accordingly. But the Federation is not militaristic. Now, they got ships with
That
weapons
can defend
on them,
themselves.
but their point is not to enlarge their territory. They're just out exploring. And that's the 5-year mission. But now, because there was a conflict and there is a border, you have to supply those border outposts.
Defenses.
So you send starships by to provide for them. I know in a lot of the episodes, the Enterprise is going by and checking on outposts.
Yeah.
And sometimes these outposts are just one guy.
That's right.
One guy and his wife. It
Right.
turns out to be a monster.
Right.
But the ship is going and it's checking on places while it makes its run.
Well, I was talking to Arthur, and I guess you guys can validate this. It's my understanding from our previous conversations is that these were, I think there were 12 Constellation class starships that went out.
Constitution class.
Constitution class, yeah,
I
sorry.
think the number was 13.
13.
Yeah.
And the only guy to come back with his ship was Kirk.
The
Enterprise was the only ship to return.
Well, there's multiple you don't get it from the original series. They filled it in later, but each of the ships went out on several 5-year stints, and by the time Kirk gets the Enterprise, I think the Enterprise has been out on 3 5-year missions under Pike, and in some books people say it's not canon, but there's a guy named Captain April who took it out day 1. But yeah, over the course of these 5-year missions, which is the equivalent of a sea tour where an aircraft carrier wherever goes out for 6 months.
Right.
Yeah, the other 12 ships don't come back. Second tour, third tour, whatever the case may be.
Let's save that for the second podcast because we're getting far afield on this one
That's true.
beautiful
That's true.
episode,
That's true.
which is Balance of Terror. But so they were in the briefing room. They had all a byplay between the characters, and they go out of the briefing room. And I think at the end, the output was that a comet was seen, and they were going to use the comet's tail to hide their ship to try to catch the Romulan commander off guard.
The Romulan, I thought the Romulan was going to try to hide in the comet.
No, the Romulan was already cloaked. So what happens is they leave out, and Kirk cuts
they use the tail of the comet to reveal the Romulan.
Yeah, reveal.
So Kirk cuts around, and the Romulan commander's sort of waiting on him. And when Kirk doesn't appear where the Romulan commander thinks he's supposed to be, the Romulan commander backs off.
Well, one of his guys goes, Commander, the shadow no longer follows us or something.
Yeah, the reflection is no longer there.
He's like evasive, it's just like, and all of a sudden he's thrown against the wall, and it's like he didn't.
Well, Kirk
didn't even think.
Kirk opens fires.
Not yet, because when they come around the other side, and Kirk's like, "Get ready for him. He'll be visible for a minute," and like he's not there, and Kirk's like, turn, fire.
Right, he's a fire.
Yeah.
He just starts blasting.
Yeah.
Because he's not there, so he's obviously moved somewhere.
Right.
So just open up. Hopefully, we'll luck up and get him. But the Romulan commander, when the ship disappears, he automatically thinks, this is a move I would do. Because he actually states it. He goes, man, that's something. This guy's tricky.
Yeah. He calls him a sorcerer.
Right. So he moves around, and then I don't know if that's the scene where the Centurion. The bulkhead comes down and kills the Centurion, or does that
that's
take
later
place
on.
That's a little bit later.
He's got to fire first. We got to do they fire on the Enterprise scene.
Right.
Oh yeah,
That's classic.
But the thought between the two captains, Kirk has a good idea and he goes to implement it, and the Romulan commander is not like your average you know,
He's
villain.
experienced.
He's not like your average villain who doesn't have any thought in his head. He's just evil. He picks up on it automatically that something's not right, and he does a counter to it.
Well, that's what, getting back to that character. That's what I like about the character. He in no way comes off as evil.
Right.
If anything, the junior officer who the Centurion warns him about is kind of his styles. He's the problem. He's a political guy, and he's gunning for
That's a good point. He has his own style.
He's got his styles on board, and in his culture that can mean his death. You know,
he's got his own style. I never put that together, but that's very good.
Yeah.
He's got a guy.
Parallel. Yep.
He's got a guy on board that's a problem.
Yeah.
And his McCoy,
Theseus.
his McCoy
is the Centurion.
The Centurion. Although the Centurion is pushing for war or wants war because it is their culture.
It's what they do.
Yep. What they do. McCoy's like, hold on a little bit. Do we really want to go here?
But he's reflecting his culture.
He's reflecting his culture.
Right.
Yeah. So
he's being his commander's strength. He's saying, I know you're hesitant, but this is what we do. This is who we are.
That's who we are.
But watch out for that guy who wants your job.
Right.
Because in our culture, your job.
You might want to flush him pretty quick.
Yeah, watch him, because if he sees weakness, he's coming for you.
Yeah. So I think is it right around then? That's when something happens where they go to weapons. The Romulans do, and then they fire the plasma weapon.
Right. The commander catches Kirk flat-footed. He reverses course, and they decloak and fire.
Yeah, because the phasers like short circuit.
Yeah, because the hit does a lot of damage to the Enterprise.
No, the Enterprise hasn't been hit yet, though.
The coil overloads or something.
The coil.
Yeah, the coil.
And so they don't have phasers, but what happens is that they shoot. You see the plasma weapon, and Kirk goes. Does he say emergency warp?
Emergency reverse. He throws the ship into reverse.
Yeah, but he's like emergency warp, and it's just like, zzz, and then I think he said something like, "Is it 2 minutes for the weapons to over?" And then that's where Kirk's like getting their ship ready to like go down. He's like signing orders and doing all this other stuff. But there's a classic move in there that I've talked about before about defines Kirk, and it may not be politically correct, but. So they're going and it's counting down, it's 10, 9, and Yeoman Rand comes walking on to the bridge, right? And she says, should I continue doing log entries? And he's like, Yeoman, really, what's the point? But then he's like, continue. And then he remembers he's the captain, and he goes, continue log entries. Yeah. But as it's counting down, it's like 7, 6, 5. You see Kirk, he reaches out and grabs Rand around the waist, and he like pulls her into him. Yeah. Like if I'm going to die, if I'm going down, I'm going to do it with a hot chick.
A hot body next to me.
That's right. And you just see him, he doesn't even really look at her, but you could just see his arm go around her, and all of a sudden he just kind of just pulls her right in there. And then that's classic Kirk, because if he's going to die, he's not going out as a punk or in all this other stuff. There's a beautiful woman there. Come on over here. This is. I'm
dead anyway. And they can't court-martial me.
And that feeds into past episodes where Kirk had kind of resisted.
He's resisted several women, because after Rand leaves, he has another female officer, and that's the one on
shore leave.
On shore leave,
who's cuter.
But I was just listening to.
She might be cuter, but.
Well, Rand was supposed to be. Rand is his yeoman.
Rand was way ahead of her time as far as her looks.
Interesting point on Yeoman Rand. Balance of Terror is the last episode she appears in.
Is it really?
It is. Oh. It is. She's not on. She's gone after that.
So after he hugged her, she filed charges.
There was a complaint. She was transferred to the Lexington.
and since he's the number one captain, I'm sorry, baby, you got to go. Hey, it's the patriarchy, man. We're not getting rid of James T. You're just a yeoman.
We're gonna put you on one of these doom ships.
We'll put you on a little garbage scow.
Well, no. Years later, in one of the movies, you see that Rand is doing well in Starfleet Command.
So no, she's a transporter officer on
Space Dock.
No, the first one, the Star Trek motion picture.
Well, the last time you see her is in Star Trek 3, working at the Space Dock.
Oh, okay.
She helps them steal the Enterprise.
So what happens is Rand gets fired from Star Trek, and a writing campaign. This is true. The writing campaign gets her brought back for the motion picture.
And then
But it's because she filed sexual charges on
when the
James
weapon
T.
hits.
No, I'm joking.
When the weapon hits and they survive it,
Right.
immediately to the point where they respected you as an audience member, they told you what he was thinking. You know, he falls into the rail, and he's looking at the screen, and he goes, "Limited range."
Yeah.
Like he just says it, like
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah,
and then
but
it's-
they were seriously hurt.
Yeah.
The Enterprise was hurt after that
yeah.
encounter.
Yeah.
And
They kind of established that you can only take maybe 3 hits from the plasma weapon.
And this became the downfall of the Romulan commander because he wanted to pull off. He said, "Okay, they're down. Let's get away." But his styles
Yeah. The
wanted
political.
to kill.
The commissar guy.
Yeah, his styles wanted to kill,
Right.
and
challenged him saying, "You're
Well-
not going to get the
well,
kill."
somewhere the bulkhead falls. We're missing the death of.
That's the Enterprise's counterattack that's coming up in what we're talking about.
Yeah, because don't they get the ship? They get the ship back together.
Right. And they continue
That
the
conversation comes later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they start the cat and mouse thing again.
right. Because the Romulan, because of the things that Mark pointed out, his fuel situation, he has to return to a particular course to make for home. And that keeps giving the Enterprise an opportunity to pick him up. And the Enterprise is firing dispersed phasers, like what it really is a submarine destroyer battle, and there's a reason for that. But they're using the phasers like depth charges.
Right. But then what happens now is they make the decision to enter the neutral zone.
Right.
Because up
Right.
until now, they've been on this side of it.
Right. They've been running towards it.
So far, they've been able to pull the Romulan back. They've been able to pull the Romulan back.
Yeah.
So the Romulan turned when they went through the comet. The Romulan turned and attacked,
Yeah.
and then went away again. And the Enterprise is going after him. It's that last set of exchanges where the Enterprise pretends to be damaged. That the
Well, then they go, let's get him before he gets in the neutral zone. They start doing just random shots.
Right. Dispersed
It
fire.
hits.
and then the bulkhead.
That bulkhead comes
the
down,
bulkhead
hits
comes
the
down.
Centurion.
Right.
and the Centurion. But the point is, the Centurion dies, who is the long-term friend of the Romulan
Right.
commander. And unlike movie villains of this generation, the Romulan commander doesn't lose his cool. I remember watching.
Well, the fact that he even cares.
I remember watching. I think it was King Kong, and Samuel L. Jackson as the military commander loses it at the
Yeah.
death of his men.
Yeah.
And he loses it and he becomes king. He becomes Ahab.
Becomes obsessed with
He
King
becomes
Kong.
Ahab. He gets obsessed with King Kong, just like Ahab was obsessed with Moby Dick.
Now, if you keep saying Ahab, we got to talk about the Doomsday Machine.
But the Romulan commander,
Next episode.
although he lost his friend,
Right.
stayed on task.
Yes.
I've got to get my ship home. And it's so much of a parallel with Kirk. I've got to complete my mission. I've got to get my ship home. I lost my friend. In this case, they even they said, put all the
The
damage,
debris and the bodies.
the debris into and I think it was just one body, and there was a commander.
So the Centurions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he jettisons them as waste to show that their ship was damaged.
Yeah,
And they
that's the old submarine trick. You know, you send up
Yes.
some refuge so
Yes.
that they fall for it.
Spill
And I know
some oil.
Spock says insufficient mass or something like
Right.
that.
Yes,
So-
they figured out immediately.
yeah.
but there was a body in it. It was at least the commander took the gamble.
Yeah.
And you see, like in our generation or our culture, throwing somebody's body out the spaceport,
Yeah.
just so you can get away. In movies today, that people would be, berating you, fighting against you, and all that.
Saying you can't do that.
No, the honor of the dude is dead. I'm still trying to get us home. Can't you see that?
One of us is dead.
But you
11.
didn't-
There's 11 more.
You didn't think that he did it.
Callously.
He didn't do it
He
callously.
did it
was a
because-
necessity.
He knows his friend would have told him that. I mean,
Use any
He
method
makes a
you can.
statement.
Use many
Does he?
method.
He says, "Sorry, friend, but now I must do what I have to get home."
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. See
Yeah.
that? What? You don't, when's the last time?
You don't get
When's
that.
the last
you don't
time
get
an
that in today's
antagonist?
writing.
When's the last time an antagonist in a story
Right.
spoke like that?
They don't.
No.
not in mainstream film.
Not in today's culture of films. You don't get like we said before. It's a Thanos. It's a villain who is, what's the word I want? Who's relatable,
Right.
who's supremely relatable. I'm a Romulan commander.
It's someone you can empathize with.
I'm a Romulan commander, and even though you don't like my mission, and I don't like my mission, I've got to complete my mission and get us home. If excuse me, Jimmy, if you got to go into the shoot, you don't care already. The bulkhead's already crushed your melon.
I would expect it.
And that's the
I would
point.
expect it.
And that's the point. The writing is just so good, and it's not clichéic
Right.
No.
at all. You get the battle between two men, two weapon systems, two ships, and you can see it from both sides.
And actually, they do a good job of giving you the byplay between two crews. The competency of the crew of the Enterprise, the competency of the much smaller ship, the Romulan ship. It's the battle of the crews who, people are manipulating. It's one of the few times you see that the Enterprise's other stations, the phaser banks and things, are run by other people and how they have to perform.
Right. And then I think now we go into the second, blind fire hit.
Right.
And that's another thing, because in these initial battles, there's no real way of the Enterprise knowing that they've done anything.
We missed a point though.
And
When did Enterprise play dead?
That's coming up.
That's
coming up. When the Romulan drops the nuke.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There we go.
But that's another one
There we go.
establishing Kirk, because what happens? They're gonna.
Well, Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, they try to get him before they get into the neutral zone, and I think Styles says at this range it'll be wild luck, and he's like, fire.
Yeah.
So they fire, they hit him again, and now this time the Romulan puts more debris into the tubes, but he puts in one of their self-destruct nuclear weapons.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you cut back to the Enterprise, and there's Spock. He's like right on. He says like more debris, and Kirk goes, analyze quickly. Like he knows. He's like, some debris and one metal encased object, and he's like, hard over, fire, point blank range, boom. And what else? He detonated a nuclear weapon 100 meters.
Yeah, it's 100
off the ship.
100 meters, 300 feet away from the Enterprise, a nuclear bomb goes off. And there's radiation burns on the outside of the ship. Now that's where he lets the Enterprise appear to be.
Right.
Right.
And then one of the Romulan guys goes, well, maybe it is Decius, the guy that's been the whole time.
Right, it is.
He goes,
he
says,
give me the honor of the kill if you don't want it.
but he says it's glorious, and then he goes, now we go home, and he's like, what? But I think they remain motionless for
The Enterprise does, and they're doing
Yeah.
repairs.
Yeah.
And what happens is Spock accidentally
right.
touches something, but
They're running silent.
Yeah.
but the point is the Enterprise is he's playing dead.
Right.
He's playing dead, and the Romulan commander was back on task. Task is going home,
And
not necessarily destroying the Enterprise. Task is going home and reporting what their ship can do.
Right.
And then the young Romulan officer,
Decius.
okay, the young Romulan officer, like, well, hold on, Captain. What are you talking about? He's floating there waiting. Now here's a young ensign or whatever rank he is, and the captain's like, look, I've been in this enough. We got away with our skin so far. Let's count. Let's turn in our cards. Let's fold and let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And the young officers, no.
Give me the honor of the kill.
Give me the honor of the kill.
But doesn't the Romulan commander, he goes, we've injured ourselves. Our fuel is pretty.
Yes,
Yeah, they're
at this
talking about
point, he's
energy.
Yeah,
like,
he explains it
Yeah.
all. He explains
like-
it all. But the young hothead officer wants the kill,
Right.
and he wants the credit for the kill.
And he alludes to the commander, I'll talk about this when we get home, that you shied away from the fight, that you didn't want this kill. He's like, if you don't want to, give it to me.
Yeah.
So the commander, and that's the destruction of the Romulan ship, because they could have gotten away.
Right.
The commander turns the ship around to re-engage.
Well, not until they hear the signal.
Well, yeah, and the reason the Enterprise is able to attempt to run silent is they tell you that when the Romulan is cloaked, they can't see
They
either.
can't see either.
So
Yeah.
it's all by It's all
But the Enterprise wasn't moving. He was.
Right.
They were running silent as dead.
right.
Yeah.
They were
And then
they were
Spock
adrift.
Accidentally.
What was the Romulan doing for 7 hours?
It was 10 hours, and yeah, they were both.
10
It's like a
hours?
war of attrition. They're both.
They were
right
both
next to
running
each other,
silent.
but they don't know where they are because
Okay.
they're both silent. They both went silent.
Okay.
So Spock accidentally hits a button and alerts that they're alive, in essence. And then Kirk immediately goes, fire.
No, he says battle stations.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're back on the attack at that point, and the Romulans I think the Romulan attempts to fire again, but at that point, the Enterprise is on them, and they're going to be
But it's
crippled.
another Kirk moment where Spock does that, and Kirk is just like
he rolls with it.
battle stations.
He rolls with
like,
it.
if I got to talk to this guy, now's not the time.
Yeah, it's.
Right, I'll chew
there's
out Spock
there's-
later.
Right,
Yeah.
there's no time to chastise
Right.
one of his top officers in this engagement,
Right.
and neither would. And I'm just looking at it from a leadership point. Neither would you do that in front of the rest of the officers.
No, you
If
would
you're
not.
going to have that conversation with Spock, that conversation is going to be held between you and just Spock. So often in movies, individuals are having conversations that they should not have
Right.
Right,
in front of other people.
right. Wrong place, wrong moment.
Right.
Completely out of what that
Well,
character should be
it
about.
destroys the leadership
Yeah.
position in whatever framework it's in. You take the person to the side and you have the conversation. But he immediately acts upon the mistake to get a corrective.
Right.
I don't want to say process, but a corrective outcome, a positive outcome out of the mistake.
Yep. And now what we get is this head-on confrontation. Like, they're just going to come right at each other, and this is the climax, coming right at each other. And then this is where we get, Styles goes down, phaser
Right.
crew.
Yeah.
The coolant leak in the phaser room.
Yeah,
and
him and
Styles goes to
Tomlinson.
deal.
What
him and
happened?
Tomlinson.
What happened is the phaser crew is missing a guy. Styles says, "I have experience in the
in the phaser
Weapons
room.
in the weapons room." So Styles goes down to do it. Now he's down there with Tomlinson,
Right.
Right.
the guy who was supposed to get married at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're down there,
And the coolant leaks.
and Spock is doing his rounds.
Right.
Spock goes down to talk to them and say, can I be of some assistance? And Styles gets all flippant. No, we don't need your help down here.
Yeah.
That dismissive.
Vulcan. I think he says
Yeah, he calls
Vulcan.
him
He
Vulcan.
like
Yeah, he
spits
says
it
it.
out.
Yeah.
We don't need your help down here.
N-word.
Vulcan.
Well, that's
We're
what
the
it's
V
portrayed.
word.
We're gonna have to
Right,
put a
yeah.
disclaimer.
It's
We're gonna have to put a
V-word.
disclaimer
It's
about your
V-word.
ethnicity, Mark. If you keep that.
Yeah, I'm black though. I can say that word.
Our ratings,
that
just,
word-
our ratings just fell. Thanks, guys.
That's what we needed. We needed you
No.
to say that.
Probably go up.
Yeah. But that's what it's portraying.
It is.
So Spock
It
goes
is.
down there to help them.
But see how they incorporate it. See, that's
They
how they
incor-
incorporated the callback to this
Right.
prejudice, and it meant it didn't seem frivolous. Like
No.
It
like-
wasn't frivolous.
like-
it fit Styles, the person who Styles was.
right.
Yeah.
Styles had a issue with the Romulans, and Spock best portrayed the Romulans than anybody else.
Right.
Because there was no issue with Spock before
Right.
they were going to the Romulans.
Well, remember, Styles introduces early on. He's just like, "What's your point, Mister?" And he goes, "I'm just pointing out to you that there could be Romulan spies
Yeah.
on this vessel."
Yeah. Security alert. and
Security
stuff.
alert, and there's like, okay, so that laid in a layer of well, maybe Spock in Styles' eyes, Spock is
Because
a saboteur or
the scene right before that, he flips the switch, and it does cut to Styles for a second.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Styles
Where
looks
he's
at
like, he's a spy.
Styles,
Like, he's almost sure.
Styles in that moment is like, I want to kill you.
Yeah.
yeah.
But Spock goes down to talk to him, and,
Right.
and Styles flips him off.
Yeah.
Not physically, but by the acting.
Was it Tomlinson or Styles when the purple smoke started coming out of the coolant?
Runs over
What
there
did he
trying
say?
to
No,
cover.
he said something like he didn't say like he didn't say oh no or something. He
Yeah,
was like-
it's something like
Yeah.
they see it coming out and they know what it means, and
Yeah,
they're like,
he's
oh.
it's like oh no.
But one of them runs over there and tries to block the vent. And
yeah.
Well, what happens is after all this plays out, and we get the iconic Styles, "Can you hear me?" fire.
right.
Spock is walking back. He's left
And Kirk's over the intercom on the whole ship.
He's left the weapons room because of the way Styles is acting, and his job, not because of Styles, his job was done.
Yeah, it's on to
His
the next
report is
station.
done. He's on
Yeah.
to the next station, and he can hear the captain over the whole ship intercom. Styles, can you hear me fire?
See, that's another Kirk. That's another Kirk written thing, I believe, because it's not that he just called the phaser room.
Right.
Like if you were probably if you were a less experienced captain, you may have just said, "Well, I don't want to panic the rest of the ship. I'm just going to call down to the phaser crew."
He did call just the phaser room at first, and when he got no response, it went ship wide.
It went ship wide. Okay. Yeah.
So Spock is walking. The purple mist is entering, and Spock. Well, nobody's fine. Kirk is still doing. He runs back to the phaser room, and the first thing Spock does is not drag somebody out.
No.
He pulls the trigger.
First thing Spock does is fire.
Right.
Which evolved at least 3 different consoles.
Well,
Yeah.
he's got a.
Yeah. He flip, and then finally hit
So
the
you
button.
learn that running a phaser bang takes 2 guys pushing a whole lot of buttons.
That's why they
Or
got a
one
phaser crew.
Or one Vulcan.
But the whole point, it's not, oh, I gotta save them. Like in today's stuff, should we take a life?
Well, he did. You know why? Because Tomlinson died.
Oh, Tomlinson
does
he
die.
pulls out one guy, and he pulls out Styles. Tomlinson gets left in the room, and Tomlinson dies because of the coolant leak.
I think Thomason's already dead at that point.
But the point is, the first thing Spock does is fire phasers.
Fire the phaser.
Yeah.
There's no
Save the ship.
debate about I gotta rescue this guy because of the coolant leak. Whether the coolant's leaking or not, if I don't fire phasers, we're all gonna die.
But see, that's the
But they-
logic of Spock, because if you pull the one guy out and save him, you lose the ship.
But the whole point is, they don't explain that to you like they do in today's movie.
Right.
They got to explain to you why he left that guy there. They got to explain to you why he fired phasers before he tried to rescue somebody.
In a show today, Spock and somebody would have stood in the hallway for 5 minutes talking about the options before they went in the room.
Or you would have been showed something about Tomlinson that would have justified him dying.
Being left in there. Well, he was getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but even that's brilliant. They endear Tomlinson to you and his wife very quickly at the beginning of the episode. You never seen him before. You don't see him again.
You see her again. She ends up in another episode.
Yeah,
You know who walks her in?
Scotty.
Yeah.
Scotty gives her away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, beyond the marriage, the firing of the phaser, and pulling out Styles. Why Styles? Why not leave leave Styles there? Pulls out Tomlinson.
But it's a cathartic moment for Styles. This is Styles getting over his prejudice. Spock saves him.
That's true, but he pulls out Styles, and they attack the Romulan ship, and the Romulan ship is hanging in
injured.
space,
Crippled. Yeah.
So then they have the conversation. They get the Romulan commander on screen.
Tell him to surrender.
And Kirk asks him to surrender, and he goes, "That's not our way. It's not our culture.
Right.
You don't capture us.
Right.
Right.
We're warriors to the bone.
Right.
I go out dying. It's seppuku. I didn't make it.
That's right.
Well, that's kind of who the Romulans are. They're kind of a mirror.
Don't say that. Don't you say it. We'll get banned. We'll have people calling in.
They're kind of a mirror of
Some certain cultures
in
the Middle East. Not Middle East,
not
Far
the Middle
East.
East,
Far East.
East, a general easternly direction.
Far. Past everybody.
No, not far.
No, they're past everybody.
But
They're
that's
east of the East.
There's the great line from the Romulan commander that says, in another reality, I could have called you friend.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when he detonates and he destroys the ship,
Right.
and then they go to sick bay, and Styles is laid up on the bed, and he's having his cathartic moment.
Right.
He's rehearsing in his mind that the guy he's hated, and the guy he thought's a traitor, and the guy he thought's a Romulan spy, and all this stuff is the guy that pulled his bacon out of the fire.
Right.
And what's beautiful is Spock's response.
Right.
I don't care about all that.
And I don't really care about you.
Right.
I care about a highly trained officer.
Right. You're a resource.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You're a tool.
So there's no
You're a tool, Styles. You're my tool.
there's no emotional attachment in Spock towards Styles. Now we know later in the series there's an emotional attachment between Spock, Kirk, maybe a little bit of McCoy.
Well,
But-
that is a good point. This is one of the episodes where Spock is like full Vulcan. He doesn't have a reaction to anything that happens.
No, he does. So when he hits the button, when he's
Yeah.
reaching up,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he feels
He's
bad.
a-
you look it almost like he's got
chagrined.
fear.
He's chagrined.
Yeah, there's almost fear there.
Yeah.
And then I kind of get a sense of it when he's talking to Styles when he goes, look, kind of the way that Nimoy would like kind of close his eyes. He goes, I just basically did this. And I always thought that there was just a little bit in there. He just put a little bit in there of like, yeah, see, I kind of showed you that if you live the way I do and not the way that you do, that you end up saving a ship and people and the rest of that. I just kind of always felt
Was
that,
that a
even as a
jab?
kid.
Jab?
Just a little bit. Yeah, a little jab
little
there. A little bit.
A little,
But I don't know.
a little unemotional school in there.
Right. Yeah.
But Styles now has to deal with
Right.
what was been done, and then he has to deal with the blow that Spock hit him over the head with about I don't really care about you. But Kirk's getting the report of what, casualties, and he's told that Tomlinson is
He's dead.
dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, Tomlinson, who the heck is Tomlinson?
No, he knows who Thomason is.
No, he was reminded that Tomlinson was supposed to get married
Right.
because the marriage is now pushed way back
Way back in his mind.
in his mind because the ship is first, the mission, the mission is first, the ship is second, the
And
crew's third.
Everything else, right?
You being getting married is all great under perfect conditions, but that goes way in the background, and it's not dealt with in the episode at all. But the beginning and the end, there's no conversation in the episode at all about the two people that are getting married because they're just two people part of the crew.
Right. They have to go do their jobs.
We
And
don't
I think Kirk says to her something like, it never makes any sense. Or
Yeah,
something.
that's what he said.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I'm okay. And she kind of walks away. And then the episode ends with Kirk just like striding down the hallway.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to get really, I don't know if it's ethereal or something about it, but like what you were talking about, Mark, it's like, there was these priorities, right? Like,
Right.
there was the mission, you had to save things, this, that, and the other stuff. But it's like the missed marriage then is, what's the lesson there? They're trying to,
War's
teach us
tale.
is that
Nothing is promised.
yeah, that probably the first and last casualty of war is
relationship.
Yeah.
caring about each other.
Right.
So
Right.
because she said that, she goes, "I'll be all right." She just kind of she walks away, and then you see just Kirk just like striding down the corridor like today's Tuesday.
But these are starship officers.
They're
These are people who are committed to a 5-year endeavor.
5 year at a time.
5 year at a time. So they're committed to the ship. They're committed to their officers. They're committed to the mission.
Right.
Now, if they can find love along the way,
Right.
groovy. If not, it's not. So, as you said, Kirk goes down the hall because life goes on.
right.
Nothing we can do for Styles. I'm sorry.
Thomason.
Yeah, nothing we can do for Tomlinson. I'm sorry. There's no Into Darkness Triple Blood pulled from Khan that can bring
That's gonna fix it.
that can bring Tomlinson back.
Yeah.
He's done.
Death is very permanent in the whole series.
Especially
Very
if your
permanent.
shirt is red.
Everybody, there was no red shirts killed in this episode. That we saw.
Technically, I think there was for the real hardcore Trekkies out there, because I think the Romulan officer played Decius. He was one of those recurrent stuntmen that were on the show, and
Yeah.
he was a red shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was.
Oh, everybody on a Romulan ship was red shirt, except for the captain.
Well,
And that guy found second life as Spock's father.
he played. He's
He
the
played a
only.
lot.
He's the only actor to have played all the major races on Star Trek. He was a Klingon, a Vulcan, a Romulan, human. He did them all. I think he was even an Andorian. I
He
think.
did a Klingon?
Yeah, they said he did. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Balance of Terror, and
And
arguably one of the best episodes.
well, there's a reason the story's so tight, and that's because it's a direct copy of a 1957 movie called The Enemy Below with Robert Mitchum. Submarine movie. Robert Mitchum's a destroyer captain chasing a German U-boat. The German U-boat's on a mission, a secret mission, and he must return to a particular course. The cat and mouse game, the actions, the attack, even the dialogue, all of it down to a T is from that movie.
I don't care if they hacked it.
I'm just saying that's
I'm
where your
just-
tight story came from.
We had talked about this, there's
Yeah.
supposedly only 7 great stories. There's 7 stories of man, and woman and
Of mankind.
transgender, whatever. There's only 7. And yeah, this is probably a very close retelling of that. But they took it into a different genre
They did.
and they made it their own.
They did.
And, if you could watch both of those side by side, you'd see a lot of the similarities. But what happened, I think, and what happened a lot in Star Trek is like the texture that they added it to the characters
Yes.
as the story evolved. Like the character texture got richer and richer and richer and
Yeah,
richer.
the delivery, the delivery of the show and the quality of the writing is just what makes it so fantastic and why it stands up so
But
well.
they treat the audience with respect.
They do.
It's not cheesed up. It's not
It's not
Not
dumb. It's not
spoon-fed.
dumbed down or spoon fed.
right. They treat the audience with respect, and then you, like you say, it's endearing. Whether you're thinking of Captain Kirk or the Romulan commander, I know we talked a lot about the Romulan commander, but the particular lines that Kirk has and how
Yes.
he interacts pushes him high up on the chart of Starfleet captains, because when they saw the debris and the metal canister, there's no debate,
Right.
there's no second thought.
No.
He acts upon it.
Right.
Hard over, shoot it.
Right.
So you get to see in how Kirk deals with what the Romulan commander does. You start to think in your mind that he's not your average Starfleet captain.
Right.
He's a cut above.
If there is such a thing.
Right, because they're like what, admirals in the Navy. They're the top of the top.
Well, they're
Well, you go
they're
from captain
captains.
to admiral.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying regarding how many of them exist out of multiple cultures,
Right.
multiple planets.
Right.
Right.
You're
Right.
cutting. It's like how many people? What's the percentage of the population become jet fighters? Fighter jet pilots.
Fighter pilots.
Fighter pilots.
It's something strange, like it's like 1% of 1%.
1% of 1%.
Or like professional athletes.
And that's just a fighter pilot. Now you're talking about not one planet. You're talking about multiple planets, multiple characters, and they've got 12 or 13
Ships.
of this kind of ship.
The top of the line ship.
Like it's like an aircraft carrier.
It is an aircraft.
The,
carrier.
the weeding
They're
process.
they're named after the World War II aircraft
the
carriers.
weeding process necessary to get that one individual. So any black mark on your record would pretty much exclude you.
Well, that's that one episode where the one guy, he left some
Yes.
switch open
Yeah.
and Kirk put him on report, and that
Right.
was it.
Ruined his career.
You're done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But see, there was no, oh, isn't that too harsh for him? There was none of that coddling.
no, because they do a great job across the show of getting this is life and death. The best example is all the other starships that don't make it. I mean, you see most of them destroyed in the series, and it's one era. It's I took too long to figure it out. I turned left when I should have turned right. It's life and death.
Yeah, and I think we'll do the Doomsday Machine
I love that episode.
That's probably my favorite episode.
and M5.
Don't you think I know that?
Remember M5?
Yeah,
Your mighty Starfleet.
Well, M5 is perfect. You see 4 ships destroyed in that episode, or destroyed or damaged.
Well, he does destroy Excalibur, I
yes,
believe.
he destroys Excalibur.
Yeah.
Kills everybody on board.
Yeah.
400 people.
Yep.
See what you're missing, Earth?
All right.
You know,
Well, there we go.
Are you going to transport us out of here?
I
First,
can certainly do that.
first podcast in the bag. Balance of Terror, and we'll be back soon.